Sounds good. Thanks, Nikki. Um, all right. Well, I recognize a lot of you, not all of you. My name is Tracy. I work for the Billing School District as a integration specialist, mostly working with kindergarten through third grade teachers and students, helping them use technology in their classrooms. I've also been lucky enough to do lots of work with Nikki and Montana PBS and PBS Kids as a PBS Kids Early Learning Champion and a media literacy certified educator. So excited to hang with you guys tonight. I don't know that I've ever done a full session just on do ink. So I'm really excited to just spend some time really looking at it and giving you guys the chance to hopefully play with it a little bit. Were you all able to, do you all have an iPad with you for today? And were you able to get the Do Ink app installed?
I use my iPhone. Is that okay?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay. Yeah.
So I have to tell you that I actually I used to think that it was called Doink. And I would always like tell people that I'll come and show them Doink. And then I went to a conference, the ISTE conference, and I met the lady. Her name's Karen. It's literally like this one lady that makes Do Ink and like runs the show. And I met her and she corrected me and let me know that it's like, she was like, no, the I is capital. It's Do Ink. It's not Doink. It's Do Ink. So Do Ink. I'll try really hard to remember to say Do Ink. But it is just an app. So yeah, as long as you're on a mobile device and have it downloaded, then you'll be able to follow along today. And I just had left this slide in here so that you can see the sessions that have already been offered. And Nikki and her team are doing such an awesome job of getting those recordings uploaded so you can go back and watch them. And then so you kind of see what's upcoming in this series as well. So many great sessions and people to learn from. So our plan for today is just to kind of look at Do Ink green screen app. I'm going to show you a few examples and then I'll just kind of give you a demo of the basics. And I'm sure I was just telling, I think, Anne this, I'm sure there's like a million things that you could do with this that I haven't even discovered yet. So this is just going to be kind of a down and dirty basics, sort of how I've used it in classrooms in the past. So hopefully you'll just sort of learn, enough to get you started and then kind of start exploring. And then I'll just set aside a little chunk of time so that you can explore a little bit and create, and then we'll come back together to share things that you made and then answer any questions or try to troubleshoot any problems that you maybe had while you were working in the app. Oh, and my son just came home and wants to know if he can open, it's my birthday present. Let me have it. I tell you what, I tried hiding in the basement, you guys. There's no hiding. So I would say that probably the most popular things that I get asked to come in and either help with or now my daughter's texting me, there's a package. Can we open it? I swear it's for my birthday. Leave it alone, you guys. But I think the main thing that teachers really love and students really love is making these videos. Maybe our students have done some writing, either they've done some inquiry, they've studied animals, or they've done, a fun narrative writing project. This one over here on the side was from second graders at Big Sky. They did a huge weather and seasons unit, and sort of the culmination was them creating these weather reports. And so this is probably the biggest thing as far as green screens I'm asked to come in and help with is then create these videos and have these fun backgrounds. So I'm just going to click on these so you can see a couple of examples. Should have had the links open. Okay, let's try another one. Okay.
Dolphins. My favorite animal is a dolphin. I like dolphins.
Well, shoot.
Because they are cute.
Okay, I'm going to try this other one. Oh, you guys. There.
Hello and welcome. There's a tornado coming. Fact 2. A tornado can destroy everything. Facts. True. The wind blows in a big storm. It is very dangerous. What to expect? You will see a spitting cloud turning into a tornado. How to stay safe? Go into a basement or a small closet now. Thank you for watching the news.
They're so cute. These are like my favorite things to do. We'll
I
see.
like dolphins because they can jump out and then they go back in. I like dolphins because I like seashells are in the ocean and dolphins live in the ocean. They live in the ocean and I like the ocean. What is your favorite animal?
So those are definitely, I would say, some of the most popular things that I see people using the green screens to do that. I liked those examples because you can see it's not the audio isn't perfect, right? Like you could still hear a little bit of the background noise. You could hear some conversation and things in the background. I think sometimes we're so afraid of trying things like this because we think it has to be in this perfect space and it has to be super quiet. I'll show you a little trick. I'll show you some of the tools that I use, but I just wanted to point out just by, using that little tiny lapel mic, how it brought their voices out. And even though there was still that commotion, I mean, I'm not kidding you. When we were doing these weather ones at Big Sky, I always managed to set up like in front of the bathrooms or like where they open to bring in lunches, that and they are pulling those big carts. I don't know how. I always managed to. And so they were pulling like those really loud garbage cans and everything in the backgrounds. And really you couldn't even tell. And so I do think using a couple of little tools make it really nice as far as being able to hear those students really well. They were so excited about these projects. Again, this was the culmination of them, researching and writing. You see that they have their little drafts of their writing in their hand, and they just absolutely could not wait. They were so excited, to have these backgrounds and then be able to share these videos with their classmates and their families. These are just a few more examples. This one I put on here just to kind of demonstrate that it doesn't always have to be a huge project starring people. There are many ways you can set up these little kind of mini green screen areas in your classroom. So this is just a box painted green. I sat down in my basement. I have like those little green bins behind me. Sometimes people will just have bins that they have in their classroom, and I can keep supplies in it, but then I can pull it out and that can serve as a background. I've seen people go and get a couple of pizza boxes and paint the inside of the pizza boxes because then you can pop them up and you've got like a little stage and you could close them and easily store them. And then you can have all kinds of little, figures inside. Here you can tell they're just little toys that they're using. So they've just placed the little toys on that green screen backdrop. You could have Legos. There's little props, and I'll show you. I think I have a link in here. Anita Goodwin, I follow on Instagram, and she has a Teachers Pay Teachers store. She sells just little packets of like props. So if you want to tell an Easter story, she probably has a little set that you can purchase where you print these little props and you have your small little green screen set up, and then you can move these characters around and create a movie. So I put this one in here just to kind of remind us that it can be smaller scale. It doesn't always have to be this large thing. I really love this idea. This one right here, these were STEM creations from around Read Across America week. And so they had made, this was like a little truffula forest. They made the truffula trees. We can take a picture of their, dioramas or their STEM projects or their drawings and make that the background of our green screen. So now they're inside those projects and those creations. And again, it can be a video or it can be an image, and they can tell us about what they created. And then I think this is such a fun, easy project, but maybe retelling or, explaining to us kind of like a little book, like, I don't know what to say. Like, I want you to get excited about reading these books. So I'm going to tell you all about this book. But snapping a picture of the cover of a favorite book or having them become a character in their book, right? Take a picture of an illustration or a page of the book, and then the students could become a part of that book. Again, this works for both images and for videos. So I'm going to stop sharing that, and I'm going to share my iPad so that I can show you this app in action a little bit. Let's see, I love toggling between all of these. Here we go. And there. All right. So now you should be seeing just the back of my iPad. Thumbs up if I've got it going right. Okay, thank you. So the Do Ink, I still want to call this little octopus. So I'm going to go ahead and bring that open. They do actually have a really nice little tutorial. So this sample project that's embedded in there, if you watch that video, it walks you through a little tutorial of how to use Do Ink. So they do have a nice little thing in there. I typically shoot my videos first. So I'll give you kind of an idea. What I'm able to do is go in and granted, I can come in and then pull the kids in small groups or whatever works. As a classroom teacher, you would maybe set this up in a corner. Maybe you would see if you could get a parent helper to come in. You can teach your kids, even little kids could use this app. So you could teach your kids to use this app and record one another if you have a little space that you can set it up in back in the corner. So I usually, when I do the videos for teachers, I actually make the video just using my camera app. So I'll go in, I'll open up that camera app, and I've got lots. Let's see, I'll just show you my photos so you can see that it's just kind of filled with these videos. So I find this to be faster because I can just get all of my video shot. So if I'm making a video of every single one of these kids telling me about their animal research project, I can get my little green screen set up. I can pull them in. I can get the videos done. That part is done. And then I could go and put this into the Do Ink app at a later time. So to me, it's just faster to kind of process all of this here first. So I just open up my camera app and I shoot the video. And I want to notice that my videos are not perfect. Like you can see this giant chunk of wall over here. And I'll show you a picture in just a second of kind of what this setup looks like. But they're not perfect, and that's okay. I'm going to show you a couple of things in the app that lets you fix a little bit of those mistakes. But again, it doesn't have to be absolutely perfect. So I have all of these videos saved on my iPad. I'm now going to open up my green screen app, and I'm just going to start a new project. So up here at the top, I'm going to start a new project, and I'm going to create it new. And this top layer here, I'm going to add in my video. So I click on the plus, and I'm going to grab from my videos. And then I just open up recents, and then I can find, I'll just go ahead and grab this one, and I'm going to say done. So I've got his little video in here now. You'll notice a couple of things. You'll notice that I've got a big chunk of wall over on the side. And then another little thing right here, he's got a little bit of like green sort of around him. You guys can see that, right? How he kind of looks like he's got a little green floating around him. I can do a couple of little fixes. What I always do is use this crop tool. So you see where that crop tool is right there. I'm going to open that up, and then I always just crop it in as much as I can, so I don't have to worry about any of that extra stuff that I maybe accidentally got in my video. So I just kind of crop it into the student. And then you can also adjust this chroma key with those little colors right there. And I can try to get rid of some of that. So you see now how I have like a lot of kind of extra background. I'm just dragging that around until I get it pretty good. Now, if I go too far, you see he starts to disappear. So I kind of want to come back this way. Now, what I think happened with this is I had my screen set up, and these were all kindergartners, and they were so close. They pushed themselves up so close to the wall that I think it created a shadow right there. And so I needed them all to probably take like one step forward, and I probably wouldn't have had all of this big shadowy part here. You kind of start learning that shadows and lights and those kinds of things really do make a big difference in how these turn out. So I didn't notice this at the time, right? Because I was just in there trying to get them done. But once I started putting all these videos together, I noticed that many of them have that shadow, and I think that's why. So I'm just going to get it as good as I can and then hit done. So I now have him in my video. The next thing I want to do is add my background. I've done this a few different ways. If you want the kids to select their own background, it gives them that little bit more ownership and autonomy over it. You could let them search. There's a website called Pix for Learning that's like a safe kid approved website to search for pictures that we know are copyright free. So they could do a search at Pics for Learning. They could draw a picture, right, and just take a snapshot of it. So you could put that into the background. I usually then have them, maybe they put it onto Seesaw so that I could grab that image off of Seesaw and put it in the background. If you're doing a lot of these, it is much easier for you as the teacher to just go in and select the images. So it really depends on how much time you have to give to creating these videos, and how important it is for you for them to have selected those images in the background. So what I do is my favorite site that I like to use is called Unsplash. So I usually just open up Unsplash on my iPad, and then I look for whatever image it is. So they were talking about polar animals. So let's just say his was a polar bear. I'll do a search here at Unsplash. Again, it's free to use, but I know that these are copyright free, fair use images that I can put into my, and I think it's important to start teaching kids about that, right? We shouldn't just do a Google search and grab the first one that we see. It's like they all know what plagiarism is, that you can't copy someone's words, but they don't necessarily know that you can't just go grab their pictures and their images too. And so it's a good time to kind of have that conversation about only, you can't copy other people's pictures unless you have permission. So this is the site I really like to use. So I'm going to grab this polar bear picture. And what I need to do is I just need to then save this to my camera roll so that I have the photo that I need to use on my camera roll. Some teachers, if they're all studying the same thing, maybe we all have polar bears, they'll just grab one image and they all get the same one in the background. Again, it's totally up to you, dependent on kind of what your project is. So now in this next layer, I'm going to add that photo. So I'm going to grab from recents, I'm going to grab my photo and say done. And now I can kind of move and manipulate where I want him to be. So I'm going to be sure right now I'm on this bottom layer is selected. So I want to be sure I select the top layer, and then I could move him around. I could put him like in the middle of the bears. I could make him a little bit smaller. Kind of shrink him down wherever I want him to be. So you can kind of move and manipulate and get that student where you want him to be. I'm going to scroll over because then you'll also notice my image doesn't go as long as my video. So I need to tap on that. And then you have to just kind of drag this end part here and drag it so that it matches up with the end of the video. So that way the whole video will play and it will have that background the whole time. You can add different, you could add transitions. So let's say I want these polar bears for the first part. Maybe he talked about polar bears and penguins. I'm now going to click on that plus sign and I'm going to go back into my photos and maybe I'll find some penguins. And now this time it's a little too long, so I'm just going to trim that up a little bit. So you can have those transitions in there. It doesn't have to be the same photo. A lot of times if they've done an illustration, I love using their illustrations. I think it's so cute. They don't. They would much rather have the like real photos of the animals. So sometimes I'll like make a compromise and do half of the video with their illustration and half with the real animal. So you can play around with that a little bit so that you have both. You'll notice up at the top how I could have a video or this could be an image. So if all you're trying to do is just an image, you could have just taken a photograph of the student in front of the green screen, and then you could just save it as an image. You could switch this to image. I have it set on video, so that's what I'm going to export. So now I'm going to go ahead and just tap on export video, and it processes it super fast. And now it's ready. So now it's just a question of what you want to do with the video. I'm going to click on save. Depending on what you use and where you share, it's like super slick and easy. I use Seesaw. You'll notice that Seesaw just shows up right here as an option. So as long as the student signed in, I just tap on Seesaw, they tap their name and it's there. That's all that they have to do. I'm going to scroll a little bit so you can see some other places it'll go. You can upload it right into your Google Drive. I have Book Creator on here. That's an app that I have. I could drop this right into Book Creator, Classroom. So there's lots of different options here. Or I could just save this video too. So if I just need to save it to my camera roll, I could also just click save video, and now it's saved onto my camera roll. I'm going to go ahead and hit done. So that's like super basic of how to make those. Again, if you have your students working on, maybe smaller ones, that's about what I would teach them. There's lots of other buttons here. That's probably the basics of what I would teach them in order to be able to use the Sap and Crate. If you have your, props and your little tiny, green screen or that kind of thing. I would say if you're gonna have your students use, you still probably wouldn't need this app on every single iPad. It's $4.99, so it would be expensive to put it on every iPad in your class. I think if you had it on a teacher, for sure your teacher iPad, and then maybe if you're going to have students use it, maybe as a center, you could have it on one or two other iPads, but it's certainly not one that you would need on um, every single iPad in your class. So let me stop sharing that really quickly and go back here. I want to give you a little bit of time to just kind of click around and try to make something. I know it's a little bit tricky because you're going to need something green. So whether you have, a big a green piece of fabric, or if you just have something small, if you have, a green paper, you could try and use that just for the purpose of kind of playing around and just to kind of get a feel for how this will work. So if you have a little person around you and you want to try making one with a person, you can do that. If you just want to grab, something green that you could use as a background and a couple of small objects just to get an idea of how that works, you could do it that way. But I want to give you a little bit of time to just play. I'll answer questions as you're working, and then I'll show you kind of the equipment that I would recommend and show you some pictures of some different setups here in just a second. Questions before you start? Are you good to just kind of give it a go?
Tracy, when you're putting those layers in, does the green one have to go on top or second? Which, does it matter?
The green should go on top.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. And there's a third layer. Again, you can add an additional, I'll show you. Okay, I'll stop talking and then I'll make a note to show you. You could add like some little animations and things like that in there as well if you want to get really fancy. But yeah, the front should go at whatever you want at the front should be at the top and then kind of build. I'm going to set a timer for maybe 15 minutes just to kind of let you click around and play. And I'll stop talking, but unmute and ask questions as you're working if you have them. Yeah, so there's some little editing tools down at the bottom where you can trim. So let's see. I guess I don't know that I've ever tried trimming the front. So I'm going to select his video and then I hit that trim tool and let's see, because I can take it off the back here. I don't know that I've ever tried to do it off the front.
Tracy, I did it. You just drag that little green nub in forward and that'll trim it. Or you can, wherever that red line is, when you hit trim, it'll trim it right there.
Okay, I don't know why. See what it's doing on mine?
Oh, scooting it over.
Yeah.
I know you can split, so I wonder if you like in iMovie where you break it
Yeah.
and then split the thing into chunks, and then you could delete a chunk.
Okay, what if let's see where that red line is. Oh, nope, it trimmed everything after it.
Oh, okay.
Try to just, like Nikki said, split it, and then that's weird.
Okay.
Yeah, there you go.
So that worked. So I could just decide where I want it to be, get rid of it and split it and then grab that front part and delete it.
Mm-hmm.
So I couldn't really trim it, but you can get it off of there. Did that make sense? it was a little bit wonky. So basically I just moved it to where, so let's say I wanted to start it at the 6-second mark. I'm moving that red line to where I basically want to trim, but I'm splitting it into 2 videos. So then I can select that first one and just delete it right off of there. So it's trimming whatever I want to get out of there, but basically just by splitting it in half and deleting the chunk I don't want. A couple other things while I have this shared again. Our time was just about to go off anyway. Okay. So a couple other things, and then like Nikki said, if you're able to get it into that folder, if you can save it to your iPad and get it into that folder, we'd love to see what you create. But I'm gonna go ahead and start a new one just to show you this other layer here. So this is kind of, you know, if you're getting real fancy, I can click, and whatever I want to be sort of in the front, I'm building at the top, and then what I want in the back is going to be at the bottom. So you'll notice there's a couple of elements here. You can add text into here. So maybe I want, you know, to have some kind of a label or text part. So maybe I'm going to write, you know, the word spring in there. And then I can click that plus sign, and now I'm going to put in a little animation. You can draw right in here, and you can learn some tips about sketching and drawing from Anne in the next couple of weeks. But you can use this create animation, and it opens up this drawing tool. So you could add in your own animation here. I'm not going to do that and embarrass myself. I'm going to come back and I'm going to open the prop library. So they do have some things already in here that you can use. You can type and see if there's an element that makes sense with your picture. I'm just going to put in, we're going to grab this little butterfly, and I'm going to say done. There he is. And then I'm going to add in, just so you can kind of see what this is going to do, I'm going to put then in that next layer. So I'm moving down. I'm going to grab another, just one of these videos. I'm going to grab that little cutie right there. And then again, remember, I want to kind of crop this. And then in my very background, I'm going to grab this little kind of springtime thing back here. So I'm going to go back up to that top again, and I'm going to first of all make it so it's not so giant, and kind of move it up here. And then you see that little like yellow dot, I could make it move. So I grab it and just kind of trace a path that I want it to move on my picture. And then I'm going to push play. Isn't that cool? So again, really simple little element, but adds, you know, just kind of a little bit of fun in there. I don't do this a ton as like the teacher person just making the video, but if you were having kids make these, just think about how, right, over the moon they would be to be able to add in those little elements. I did one with the drawing element before. Have you guys read that story, that Knuffle Bunny story? You know, where she loses her bunny and they go all over. It was such a neat example because there's real photographs in the book and then there's illustrations. So we used this little animation piece here, and they drew their little Knuffle bunny. And then the pictures we added in the back were things from Billings. And it was hilarious because, you know, like, what are your favorite Billings landmarks? And literally it's like Walmart. And, you know, stuff like that. We're not talking like the rims or anything here, but then they in their background then put their, and we didn't even have their photographs in it, we just had them in their drawing, but they could put in their background, you know, the Walmart or Get Air, and then they could put their little animation in on top of it, on top of that image. So that was kind of fun. So that's an extra like level thing that you can do, is add that animation piece, but just kind of remembering as you're building your layers, whatever you sort of want to be in the front of your image or your video should be at the top, and then you kind of build down that way. I'm going to close, sorry, back and forth between the iPad and the computer sharing is fun. I wanted to show, a couple of you had said you love the dioramas. So I wanted to show you one example from my friend Bobby Hopkins on Twitter. I just think this is so cool. So she had done this with her students. I have it pulled up right here, but I love how they're just walking
Shark
around.
talents to grab their prey. They eat mice, snakes, and small birds. The smallest owl isn't. The smallest is the elf owl. It is as big as a cell phone. Owls have 3 stages of life, so their mother.
I want to get to the front where you could see her, like, I mean, she's like literally walking around in her creation. I just thought that was so clever. So to do something like that, let's kind of peek at our materials here for a second. And then if any of you shared, I want to, I'll show you that one in a minute. I'm going to come here. So to do something like that, you just need more, probably more fabric or more materials. So you'll notice in her example, like to see her full body like that and to see her walking through, it's because she had, you know, the green was all the way on the wall, and then she obviously had some along the floor as well, so that she could shoot her whole body and she could kind of be walking around and still have all that green in the background. The ones that I am showing you, so the example that I showed, we'll go back. Where's that little man? I don't have his full body in there because my green screen only goes about that far. And if I went any further, right, I would just see his legs in the wall or whatever, because I don't have a green screen that goes all the way down to the floor to cover that. You'll see some where people have them, and I'll show you where to see some great examples, but it looks like they're riding in a car or, you know, riding on a rocket or something. It's because they've probably taken a chair and covered it with some kind of green fabric, and then the student can sit on that chair and it looks like they're just sitting, you know, in the air, because everything is covered in green. So really it's just a matter of, you know, whatever you want to do, just having enough of that material. This slide has just a couple of, there's no, I mean, this is just kind of what I use. You can, everyone says you can use like butcher paper. So you can, it's not great. Again, it depends on lighting. I don't think it's opaque enough, so it gets really like weird and shadowy in the background. So you can use just paper or butcher paper. It's not my favorite thing to do. I have these crazy green screen like pop out things that, you know, like how you put a shield in your car like from the sun, and then you have to, so they have green screens like that that were really highly recommended. They're super nice. I literally cannot get it folded back up. So it's this really nice big pop out green screen. It works great. I just find it a little hard to deal with. I prefer these fabric kinds a lot. So I just linked, again, this is just one of many. Look at the sizes and determine like, what are you hoping to do with it? How big do you need it to be? Maybe you want a couple, maybe you want like a smaller and a larger, depending on what your plan is. I mean, you'll notice it's not insanely expensive this is 20 bucks, 15 if you apply this coupon for this fabric one. But I like the fabric. I just think it's a little bit easier to deal with. These come with like little clamps to clamp it up top. I will often just find a bulletin board and I will just pin it right onto the bulletin board and just make it as simple and as easy as possible. So do a little bit of, looking around on Amazon, look at the sizes to kind of determine how big you need it to be. You don't need, um, you don't need a stand, but it can be really useful. I often just hold my iPad and record. And then in the middle of doing that, I think, gosh, why didn't I bring a stand with me? Because I'm holding it for so long. So I just linked a couple of highly recommended. This would be a floor stand that you could use. And then I linked in a tabletop stand, depending on kind of what your setup is and what works really well. So this one was really highly recommended too. This one would also work. I know Nikki had showed stop motion. This one would work really nicely too for like a stop motion video stand as well. So again, these aren't required in any way, but they can be really helpful. The one thing that I do think is almost a necessity, especially when you're shooting those videos, is some kind of microphone. Um, I had started, I have like a handheld mic, and that's what I was having them do. But you'll notice that almost always they have their like writing and so they're trying to manage like holding this giant heavy microphone and the paper, and it's just too much. So I really like these lapel mics. I just stick it right here and I'm always just blown away by how well it picks up their voices. And it just makes a huge difference because honestly I've created some where we've gone to all of this work making them, and then when we go to listen to them, you can't hear the kids at all because there's too much background noise or they're so quiet. I had little kids. I was doing this last week with first grade, some kindergartners and some first graders, and literally as they're recording, this is what I hear. They're telling me about polar bears and they're talking like this way. And I'm thinking, there's no way. There's no way. And then I'll stop and I say, well, let's just listen really quick and make sure. And it picked him up perfectly. So I highly recommend, and again, you'll see that it's pretty inexpensive, 14 bucks for this one, but picking up some kind of lapel mic just makes this the process much better and you're able to hear them. And then a couple of other ideas. So we talked about, like small little green screen types of things. I did link in here to Anita Goodwin, her Teachers Pay Teacher store, if that's something you're interested in. I'm sure she has some little freebies on here too. But here's an example. So she has just little props that you could use if you're wanting to have your kids tell stories. I like them because she usually has like little planning pages so that they kind of would go through and think about what their story is going to be and plan out what their story is. And then they can use these props. You'll notice that she recommends that you print and then put on here. They've got little green popsicle sticks, or she goes and steals straws from Target, the green straws from Target, so that she's got her puppets on, a green puppet stand. And so you won't see that as they're moving those pieces around. They can manipulate those without seeing that piece in there. And then a lamp or a ring light. Again, not that you have to have this, but the more I do it, the more obvious it is that lighting is really important. just like those shadows on those ones that I pointed out to you, if I would have had a lamp right there, it probably wouldn't have been as noticeable that there's all that stuff. So sometimes, and it depends on the room, what your setup is. Some rooms have plenty of light in there and you don't need it at all. Some rooms are just dark. Your classrooms are just dark. And so having a little bit of extra light can be really helpful. And again, it can be just a simple lamp, or those ring lights are so predominant right now. I think I've got a couple of pictures here. So here's one where we just had a little ring light just set up, and it really did make a pretty big difference in the quality of how that video was turning out. So again, just a couple of pictures just to kind of demonstrate, if you want that full body, kind of how to set that up. This one I thought was a great example. So you can see it doesn't have to be anything great, big and fancy. Like they've just got this little tiny green screen, but they're getting enough of him to make his video, because then they can kind of crop and trim like we looked at in that app and get just the top of this little kiddo. And then here was kind of a challenge. That's as big as the fabric that I use, and she wanted them to be in their groups. So we had to kind of mush in there a little bit, but as long as I could get their bodies in front of the green, I could then just kind of crop out the rest, and they turned out just fine. So just a couple of examples of kind of looking what that setup looks like. I'll pause again, and I don't know, did any get into that folder, Nikki?
Yeah,
Sure, you're
Anne got one in there.
Did you get your little doggy in there?
I did. I didn't have anything green, so I just found a picture that had a green like computer, and then I told Merida, "Come here."
That's perfect. That's actually really cool.
Yeah,
That's really
I was
cool.
thinking that it would be fun to have something show on that coffee cup, or like anything green,
Oh, yeah.
right?
Yep.
Mhm.
Yep.
Yeah, that's a good idea. That's cute. I wanted to show, I had put this one in here because I thought it was really funny. So these little first graders could write about whatever they wanted to write about.
Okay. Michael Jackson by Jesus. Who is he? What he does? Songs. Who is he? Hee-hoo. Did you hear that? It's Michael Jackson. He is a famous singer and dancer. What he does? Michael Jackson can moonwalk, and he can sing songs. One of his songs is called Thriller. It has zombies, and he sings with zombies was singing. No, was
I'll pause. I just had to, I love the part where he goes, hee hoo, and sings like Michael Jackson in this video. Most of them wrote about, I mean, you know, dogs and cats and swimming. I thought that was hilarious. So, that was a really fun project where, again, they just wrote their stories and then got to share. One thing I didn't love, because they wrote them in those books, it was super distracting, I think, how they were like turning through those pages. So I would probably do that part a little bit differently. But again, they just loved having that as a way to publish. And then we just easily pushed it out to Seesaw so that they could all see each other's and their parents could see each other's. I think it's such a fun way when they've been, you know, spending all that time writing, then to have to read it back is such an important thing. Like they had to practice and practice and practice to be able to go back and read their writing. So I think that practice is so important, but then this is just such a fun way for them to be able to share, that they're able to read that. The kindergartners, so those polar animals ones that we did, they actually just, instead of reading it off of the paper, they had been studying, and then the teacher said, now tell the animal and 2 facts that you know about the animal. And I thought that that was actually really smart because you know that they would have probably been sitting there for a long time staring at that paper, trying to remember the words that they wrote. This way, they just kind of had the confidence and they just said the animal and then shared their facts. And that worked really well too. So I'd love to hear your ideas. If you don't have one that you can share or just are struggling with how to share it, I'd love to hear maybe some ideas that you have for how you might use this, or maybe ways that you have used in the past. If you want to drop in the chat or unmute and just share some ideas.
It's like we have one more in the folder. I'm not sure who it
Oh,
belongs
awesome.
to, but I just
Okay.
show up in.
That's amazing.
You
Who's
just
going to claim it?
that was me.
Yay, Jenna.
Yeah. My creativity right there.
I love it. I always struggle. We were just talking about this. I struggle like when you're trying to think of something on the fly or just grab stuff that you have sitting around. I always struggle with those quick examples. That's really cute.
I'm jealous you have Oreos at your house too.
Wendy, I love that idea. The weekly news, putting yeah, just finding like kind of like those weather report ones that I showed at the beginning, finding that little like breaking news background or weekly news background. It's fun for them to they feel really official, like little reporters. That would be really fun. Any other thoughts or ideas or things that you've seen?
I can share a couple of the projects that I've done with
Okay.
teachers. I worked with a teacher in Amsterdam school a couple years ago, and we did this activity called the 5 Clue Challenge. And I don't know if you're familiar with it, but it's a series of videos that a teacher put out where he films himself somewhere in the world. He got to travel a lot while he was creating these videos, and he gives 5 clues, and the kids, you're supposed to play one clue, hit pause, and then the kids have to do some research using that clue to try and figure out where this guy is. And so we did a number of them with the class, and then we threw it to them to make their own 5 clue challenges using the green screen. And she combined these with their state projects. They were studying the regions and the states in 4th grade. And so each kid had studied a state to, instead of writing the report, they made a 5 clue challenge about their state. And so they stood in front of the green screen, and during the final second when they revealed where they were, we put in a picture that of the in the background of the state. So they stood in front of a regular background, or some of them chose like, sugar is made here, and so they had like a picture of sugar or something in their background. But then the final image was them standing in front of the welcome to Illinois sign or something like that. And they just turned out really, really great. They did them in pairs, and that helped them to create their scripts a little bit. And we used a multi-purpose room to do the filming, and it was definitely one where it took 2 of us to do it and get it done in a timely manner. So if you have like a co-teacher or anybody who can help you, you won't be doing it for the rest of your life. But it was really great. And then we just published them to a Google site and then shared the Google site with their families. And we took some time at the end, and everybody got to watch each other's 5 clue challenges. And it was a really creative way for them to take what they learned about their states and create something that they could share with everybody.
That's really fun. I just pulled up the Do Inc. I think they have a Facebook page too. but they share some really great examples. So I'm on their Instagram right now. And I think this is just such a fun way of getting inspiration. And if you see something and you're like, oh, how did they do that? You can always email me or email Nikki and just kind of ask. But this I think is like such a fun, they made those cool, those STEM projects at St. Patrick's Day where they make the little rainbow out of pipe cleaners. And then again, to just take a picture and then they get to add themselves into their little STEM project. Um, I thought this one was really clever. You'd have to get your kids to all wear striped shirts and do Where's Waldo. But I like too how they'll share, different pictures of how different teachers have it set up. So you can kind of see all of the different ways that people set up. Some people have these amazing like studio setups that I'm super jealous of. And then others just, they have a piece of paper, or they have, just like a small little fabric background. But this is filled with tons of ideas and inspiration. And then same with their uh, Twitter feed, I think also has lots of really fun ideas. This, I think, just these images are so fun. Like, snap a picture of your writing, and then we put you in a picture with your writing, and how much they would love being a part of their stories. So lots of great ideas to check out, I think, on their social media pages if you're just sort of looking for other ways that people are using these tools. One of the, oops, he just wants to keep talking, little Michael Jackson boy. There's a resources slide in here, just kind of with lots of links again to their social media pages, as well as they've got lots of help tutorials and FAQs. They've got reference sheets to kind of walk you through the different steps of creating. I also put a couple of those places where I find those copyright free images, Unsplash and Pixabay, and Nikki had dropped the link in there for that Pix for Learning. But these are great places just to kind of get a little bit of help and resources sort of as you're creating. I don't know if it's prize time yet. I'll stop.